example, of animals to repopulate the planet. But when all was said and done, there was these other race of beings that didn't come from Earth 1, they came from Earth 2. And this is where you get the story of giants, all of a sudden appearing out of nowhere after the flood was diminished. And that since then, this has created, and supposedly this has been discussed in the scientific community as well and proven, that at the atomic level of our planet, there are two different, how should I say it, two different atomic structures fused together with each other, knowing full well that one doesn't belong here. And that supposedly in this so-called Great Awakening that will take place that you and I know of, this is where one of the reasons for people needing to prepare themselves, because there are some people that just simply won't be here anymore when the Earth, or Earths plural, correct themselves and split apart again. Have you come across anything like that in your studies?
Yes, I have, but I chose not to accept that one. I chose instead another one. And again, okay. I will share that one with you. And then I'll ask you the same question, which do you prefer, or are both there in a modulated form? I was talking about the story of Maldek and Malona, that there were systems of 12, that there were 12 planet systems, again, per se, not 9 as we've been told, and so on and so forth. But at any rate, the story of Maldek and Malona supposedly is that Maldek had a moon was called Malona, that there were races of people on both of that, and they had a battle. They'd been feuding for some times, and they actually extended to break the vortex field, or the electromagnetic field, between the two of them, and they both disintegrated. And that when they disintegrated, there were people, great scientists and so on some of the inner planets, and especially the Martians were very well versed, who it was prophesied that this may happen, and since that many of the Martians then went off to Sirius and other places, but that Maldek and Malona then streamed through, affecting both the outer planets and the inner planets. And that a lot of the flood story is when this last flood from the moon Malona came down in here, that the Earth did not have salt water, that the Earth had only fresh water, but that everywhere you have salt water, you have a product that came from the moon Malona, and and the disintegrated forms that came here. And this is why you had many voracious things who are now living in salt water, with the more passive things who are in the more or less non-salt water, or what they would call, again, the fresh water which Earth had. And that when this happened, it also caused a lot of things that happened, period. With Mars, supposedly, it almost sheared off the top of Mars. It broke the bond of Mars, and the Martian scientists who thought that this may happen had to put up 2 orbiting satellites, one in grade, one in retrograde, Phobos and Deimos, which supposedly panic and fear, which the Martians were in. Some of the Martians left, some of the Martians incarnated here, and some of the Martians supposedly still live within Mars itself, and they don't want you to know this again. So that's the way I understood it. And then the same type of a structure, it's almost like the Death Star that you hear about in Star Wars and stuff, approached the Earth, that Earth at one time had no moon. And the same structure up there now is an artificial structure. That gets into another whole story again.
Oh, yeah.
This time, the Martians who came here fought them to a standstill and scuttled that ship so it could not take off again. And then there was a great big battle about the moon men and so. I know that there's a story now, and you've probably seen it. I don't know what you think of the pictures and stuff, about a 1 billion year-old spaceship up on Mars now that supposedly had pilots in it, and it was a mile long, and that is actually, the pilot up there was a female negroid-looking woman, and the second one they found about 3 months later in another part of the ship was another negroid-looking woman who had been decapitated, and that the presentation thing that they used there was so great. You have to get the film. I'm sure you have it. If not, I'll share it with you. You judge for yourself. But that's the story of the ancient moon. And the battle that the moon people had to fight with the people that were here, which later on became Lemuria, and with that one, it even broke up Lemuria as a result of that, and all of these things. So that's the way I understand